Okay, welcome to the May 6th, 2025 planning commission meeting. First item on the agenda is the meeting minutes dated April 1st, 2025. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes? They have comments? No comments.
No.
No comments. Does anyone have comments? No comments. Station.
No.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is zoning hearing board number 674, Trader Joe's. Is that?
Anybody here from Trader Joe's present? No, not in the audience. It doesn't look like anybody is online either, so I can give background. The Trader Joe's is requesting two variances. One for a wall sign that is being placed on the building. So one will face Route 30 in the front of the building, and the other is being proposed on the side that would face the lawnmower business. And in the village district, you are permitted to have a sign that is 40 square feet. And the two wall signs that are being proposed exceed the maximum square footage allowed in the village. And the second variant being requested is for parking. So in a shopping center, the way the code is written is you have to have a cumulative amount of parking for each store use in the strip. And the Trader Joe's, with the addition of Trader Joe's, it's not meeting the requirement. So they need relief from parking as well.
Is the parking requirement, they're not meeting, remember with our reduction of parking that we approved last year?
So that reduction is for certain parcels in the village. So the parcel would have to be, I believe it's 20,000 square feet or less to have a relief from that.
They're not that far off. That they have versus the number required.
Okay.
Yeah, so with the existing parking right now, there's still a few short, and then a few spots, they'll lose a few more because of the cart corrals as well.
I have to say that my opinion on the parking is that I think the parking will probably work itself out. I think they have worse parking situation in Gateway Shopping Center, and people go there, it'll be busy at lunch, it'll be busy on the weekends, but even when CVS was there, that parking lot never was full, and it would be nice to see people coming and going and walking into that shopping center and stuff, so.
I agree.
Yeah, I have no issues with parking variance. Does anybody else have any questions, comments on parking?
No, I thought it was. The minutes for us, so that.
Well,
I didn't like the fan, or excuse me, the sign, not a fan
well,
of
no
all.
parking. Let's talk about parking.
Can we do one at a time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can separate these motions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so. How do we word it to recommend approval to the recommended the zone?
Yeah, motion to support the variance report.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that the zoning hearing board supports the variance by the Trader Joe's for the parking.
To recommend to.
The recommend to the
Right.
zoning hearing board report.
Second.
Second by Stacy. Public comment?
No public.
Oh,
Sorry.
How many spaces are they asking for? Or are they?
I believe it's 19 spaces that they're short.
Short, I think, yeah.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. So you're supporting the parking. Now let's talk about the signage. Compared to what's allowed, I think that their ask is a little extreme. However, this is very close to the edge of the, what zone was it?
BB, right?
Yeah.
PBO is to the east.
And PBO gets pretty close to that, and in PBO. I think they'll just look it up, they're allowed 200 square feet of a sign.
Yeah, I believe so.
Not per, I wouldn't think it would be per business in an I don't feel like you can compare PBO to the village program.
Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Even
So,
if it's on the edge.
yeah,
Lengthy. I'm trying to find the right sign area.
What you sign?
I
200 square
believe,
feet total sign area.
but this is considered a wall sign.
So,
How's wall different from marquee? Because then there's freestanding.
So, so the wall sign it goes up against the building, right? Like this is considered
Yeah.
a wall sign and you're permitted 2 wall signs. I'm trying to find the, section where it talks about PDO.
And a marquee would be extended away from the wall.
It's in the
Like,
definition, but this wouldn't be
Yeah.
considered.
It's definitely not the other.
are any of these guests online from the applicant?
Don't know. Is anybody online for Trader Joe's? No.
What do you think these are?
So here's my issue with this. I believe, so if they were in Gateway Shopping Center, this is probably a reasonable sign. You have people on 202 that are driving 75 miles an hour and they're trying to grab their attention. This is not even less than half the distance. It's like a third of the distance to Lancaster Avenue, where at that point, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. There are no trees in the way. And this is excessive in the size of the sign. They not only have that sign, when you drive by, there is the entrance and exit sign there where you come in. There is a sign, a freestanding sign there. I'm sure Trader Joe's is gonna put a sign there. And then there's the pylon sign that's for the shopping center, and they probably have a spot marked for them there. It's not like Berwyn is a huge town and you're gonna get lost finding the Trader Joe's, and it's not like there hasn't been the biggest buzz ever that Trader Joe's is coming into that location. So I'm pretty sure that unless you're completely blind and can only see out of one eye on a good day, you're gonna be able to see it. And I think that they could make a 2-foot by 20-foot sign and meet their criteria of 40 square feet and not, and still work it. So they're trying to fill a space, like they're taking a giant space that they are creating, like what is kind of the shopping center end cap. And that's fine, but they're just filling it with their sign and they don't need to do that. And I would not recommend or to the zoning hearing board that they approve any of that. Not even a little. I think it's slippery slope. 40 square feet should be plenty for them.
It does look like wall signs in PBO 60. A marquee is a changing sign. Isn't allowed at all. So yeah. So it's not a huge difference.
Yeah. Any comments?
Yeah, it's too big, just meet the zoning.
I just want to clarify, so Colleen, you can have 2
40 square foot signs.
You can have, up to two. Or, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it said. In the village.
So they could have one side on the front, one side sign.
Yeah.
Side.
And have two, and have 80 square feet.
Yeah.
Well, it says here they wanna put two signs, 124 square foot, the other one, 63 square foot. Secondary. Two signs.
It doesn't seem like there's that concern about it.
It does say, Colleen, up to 2 wall signs shall be permitted per use in a building per street front, so it's a little confused.
Yeah. But in that shopping center at the other end of the shopping center, BQ does have a sign on the front and a sign on the side. And it's much smaller in scale because I don't think they have as much frontage, but it does look like they would fall in, you know, within that, obviously, they were much less than 40 feet, but it definitely, they would meet that criteria, so.
Yeah, I'm looking at their points on why they wanted the larger signs, they'll say enhance visibility and public safety. I think to your point, it's excessive. Makes sense if they're all the freeway or further away. It is a long building, you know, taking back there, I don't think it's like that.
And if they miss the entrance, you can go to the light and turn left and go to the shopping center, so.
Only speaking for me, I wouldn't personally. I think they're gonna have a tough time running this out here, because I think their hardship is very. You know. If I was king and I could approve their signs, maybe I'd like them to do the 60 square foot signs. Just for the have them compromise, but. Again, I don't think that they can, I don't think they're gonna be able to, that's gonna fly with the hearing.
Yeah.
So. Seems to be that maybe we should just make a motion that the zoning board. Not recommend. Not
We're recommending not to
real
approve it.
Yeah.
I am okay with that.
Well, that we need to-
And I think what
What
Chris
else
said,
did
they're
say?
not that concerned about it if they're
Yeah.
not here, so.
Yeah. I will make the recommendation that the zoning hearing board not approve the requested sign variances. Is that good enough?
That's fine.
Is there a second? Seconded by Chris. Any public comment?
There's nothing online.
Yeah.
Oh, I said online, so.
I agree with Stacy. I think we should keep the character for Berwyn Village, be the character of Berwyn Village. And not go down the slippery slope with even 41 feet, because then we get 42, then we get 44, and, you know. It shouldn't be hard to keep it as it's.
Anybody else? All right, all those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is the Valley Forge Sewer Authority at 537 plan.
Yeah, so I can briefly speak about it. I didn't attend the meeting, I'm just the messenger. So a special meeting was held at the Valley Forge Sewer Authority at the end of March. It was attended by the township manager, Don Curley, and the public works director, Joe Rodo. The following items were discussed: the Act 537, revised asset management plans, their capital plans, and a review of their draft treatment plan, capital costs and reimbursement, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, they need to do improvements to the Valley Forge Sewer Authority So they would like contributors to provide additional funding. It went through to the Easttown Municipal Authority, and they would like to continue their stance of not needing additional capacity. We pay for the capacity that we have. We don't need additional capacity, and we shouldn't have to pay additional money to repair. So they would like to keep their position. It was presented to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors, from my understanding, were in agreement with the EMA. So the requested motion tonight is for the Planning Commission to have no further comment and take the same position as the EMA.
Any other questions about that? Yes. No. All good? Do you have any comments? All right, I'll make a motion to indicate that the planning commission has no further comment on that.
Second.
Second,
Any public comment?
There's no public comment online.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have no comment on that. Next item on the agenda is the Newtown Road Sidewalk Grant application.
Brian DiBiase from Bowman is online. He can speak about the project. Brian, can you hear us?
I do. Can you hear me? Oh, uh-oh. You can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, thanks, Colleen. Good evening, everyone. Again, Brian DiBiase with Bowman Consulting. I'll mention also that some people I work closely with are in the audience presenting later tonight, but one of them is Brian Donovan, who is assisting with preparation of the DCED grant application for the Newtown Road Sidewalk project. So he's in the audience this evening, and in case there's any questions more specific to the application, he may be available to answer any of those questions in person. But the reason Colleen asked me to attend the call tonight, or the meeting tonight, was to go over the some options we wanted to present to the township for the scope of the improvements for the sidewalk project. Colleen, are you presenting right now? Or are you displaying the?
Yeah, I'm getting it. I'm gonna get the
okay.
the images up.
Sounds good. Just let me know when they're up. I don't know if they'll show up on my screen or not.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, though, just a brief project history. Obvious, I think everyone's familiar with the project, but we submitted a TASA application for the sidewalk improvements on Newtown Road between Durwood Lane and Beaumont Road back in 2023. That application was not successful. However, the township has decided to pursue, with our recommendation, to pursue for the 2025 grant season, to pursue the DCED grant for the same improvements. So we've been in the process of putting together that application over the last month or so. Brian Donovan specifically has been pulling that all together. In doing so, and in looking at the scope of the project, we thought there may be an opportunity here to enhance the project, to make it a little more friendly or appetizing for DCED to potentially grant funding to the project. So what we would again, I can't see necessarily. I guess, Colleen, you're just showing the first PDF right now, right?
Yeah, this is the first option.
Yeah, so on the first option, the first PDF that is being shown right now is really showing what we submitted as part of the TASA application. Again, showing the proposed sidewalk along the, keep in mind, this plan is rotated, so the north is to the left on the plan we're presenting right now. So along the west, or the bottom side of Newtown Road, we're proposing sidewalk connecting Durwood Lane and Beaumont Road with new pedestrian crossings and curb ramps, and a sidewalk connection up to the Hilltop Park in the top right corner of the plan. The orange hatch that you see there was not necessarily presented on the TASA grant application, but was brought to our attention during the TASA pre-application to suggest trying to show a more direct connection from the sidewalk to the pedestrian facilities in the park. So the original application that we submitted only connected to the parking lot, but really didn't provide a connection to existing pedestrian facilities, whether it be the sidewalk along the frontage of the park buildings or the trail itself. So that orange hatch that we're showing here was just a representation of maybe an extension using striping, signage, something along those lines to help provide a pedestrian path between where the sidewalk ends and to where the pedestrian facilities for the park begin. Again, not ideal. That's really still running through a parking lot. I don't know how well received it would be as far as a fully connected pedestrian path. So what we brought to Colleen's attention were some alternatives that would, one, provide better connection to the park facilities and the sidewalk, pedestrian facilities for the park, and also potentially providing more connection to the township facilities, the administrative building, the Hilltop building, as well as potentially even the Beaumont Elementary School. So if you go to the second alternative, or maybe alternative one, I'll call it. This plan is showing an alternative that would continue the sidewalk instead of connecting into the parking lot. It would extend the sidewalk along the south side of Beaumont Road, and then extend in across the driveway for the parking lot for Hilltop Park, and then connecting internally into the existing sidewalk for Hilltop Park. So this would provide a full pedestrian connectivity between the park and the sidewalk that we're proposing along Hilltop, along Newtown Road. So providing that connection ultimately that we're really looking for between the Durwood Lane residential development, and also providing connection from the developments that run along Beaumont Road. So this was option one, I guess, alternative one that we wanted to present to provide that connectivity that I think would go a long ways with DCED in their review of the application for what I would consider not a substantial cost increase to the total cost of the project. And then the third option, or I guess alternative two, if you flip to the last PDF, Colleen, this also shows extending the sidewalk even further, taking it to the Hilltop Park driveway, or excuse me, Hilltop building driveway, and also providing a pedestrian crossing, mid-block crossing, to tie into the pedestrian sidewalk for Beaumont Elementary School at that location. So utilizing that existing pedestrian connection from the school, capturing pedestrians at that location, providing the appropriate signing, striping, et cetera, to provide a crossing there, and then connecting the administrative / Hilltop building as well to the sidewalk, as well as the Hilltop Park. So this last option is obviously the most costly, but provides the maximum benefit to the residents, to the school, to the administrative building, et cetera. The third one, what we don't show, and I probably would still suggest keeping, if you want that route would to still show the connection extending into the park along the driveway and connecting to the existing sidewalk. I think we mistakenly deleted that from that option, but I would certainly suggest if we were to go that route, that you would still provide that sidewalk connection internal to the park as well. All total, the original TASA grant was around $1.1 million. That's total project cost, including engineering, utilities, right of way, construction, et cetera. While we haven't costed out these options, I would anticipate that these would not increase the total cost of the project by more than $200,000. The vast majority of the cost with this project was having to shift the road slightly in order to fit the sidewalk in where we're proposing it. In this case, with the sidewalk just going alongside of the road, that none of that would be needed. So I don't think it would be a substantial cost. The right of way is along township property, so there wouldn't be any right of way takes or anything along those lines, and we can likely avoid the utility poles that run along that section of road as well. So in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty good enhancements to the project, and without a significant increase to the total cost. And I think We think all total that would be a positive in DCED's eyes. So just want to present these options to the township and get your feedback, see how you guys would like us to proceed with the application that is the applications are due at the end of July. So with that, I'll open it up to the planning commission for, I guess, feedback or questions.
So in all three plans, you have right across from Thurwood Lane, you have that path, you have them putting in a fence there so they can't use that path anymore?
Yeah, correct. To keep students from jaywalking essentially across the intersection at that location due to lack of sight distance. It wasn't feasible to provide a safe crossing there based on our safety evaluation, and it was not didn't meet warrants to provide a three-way stop control at that intersection. So the safest way to get connection to all the facilities, including the schools, from the sidewalk along the west side of Newtown Road and close off that sidewalk connection to the school.
See, I understand where you're coming from, but just logistically, in the front of Beaumont's elementary school, that's where the buses drop off in the morning. So all the people who go in carpool and I guess these walkers, they get dropped off right where it says where it says Beaumont Elementary School.
Okay. Yep.
So people that are walking are gonna have to be doubling back to that entrance. And looking at that now, I think you're just gonna have to run across the street anyway, off the fence.
You just think you're cutting this off.
Yeah, they're just gonna hop this fence and go right there, so walking all the way down and coming back there.
I mean, I think the intent of this is not for the school, is the connection to the park. I think there probably will be in the future another phase where the school's probably gonna get invited to the conversation on how to improve that connection to the school. I think they tried that in the first as a direct influence at the time, so I think now it's not trying to connect the school, it's connected to the park, so.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
find like.
What I'll add to
Excuse me, what's the harm with not putting a fence up?
the
Oh, wait, that's already the status quo today, and we're not inviting someone to do something different.
Yeah, I know the intention of the fence was we don't want to promote that crossing anymore. We want to do everything we can to have, I understand they may cross regardless of whether there's a fence there, but the thought is the more we can do to enhance providing a safe location, and if the parents are giving the proper direction to their children or dropping them off at the intersection and having them cross from there, that they're directing them in the right direction. Obviously, as you said, we can't keep them from crossing if they want to cross. But what I will add is while what we're proposing obviously is intended to help with Durwood Lane, it also has the added benefits of providing connectivity for the developments along the Beaumont Road.
Yeah.
So even they now would have somewhere to safely cross the intersection of Newtown and Beaumont, and also continue down the sidewalk and enter the school along Beaumont Road. Right now, there's no pedestrian, there's no ADA compliant route between either of these developments and the school, and this at least provides that. Whether students decide to use it or not is I guess up for question. But again, that's secondary.
So for someone today crossing over Newtown from Durwood to that angled walkway to the school, do you know the difference in the distance they'd have to walk down to make that happen?
Not off the top of my head, but while we're talking, I can measure it real quick. What I will say is I know the goal of the sidewalk, I think somebody else already stated, was provide connectivity to the public facilities, whether it be the park, the township building, etc. And the school has been viewed as a bit, I don't want to say secondary, but the goal was to provide the Hilltop Park connection. But I think, providing the school is just gives that, even if not every student uses it, some students will use it one way or another, and it's providing just a secondary benefit. If you're going to do this much work, but then stop short of providing that connection to the school, it's just from a DCED standpoint, I think there's value in it, even if maybe the reality is that some students are going to go wherever they want to go.
I mean, I do think of the three alternatives, number three is the best one. Seems to be the most comprehensive and provides the most connection, gets you to the township building. That's the one that I think is the best looking one of the three.
Yeah. I agree, I mean, given the design constraints, that makes the most sense. I do think in terms of return on cost, this is pretty darn low. It's just not, I'm not sure what we're connecting. I mean, you have a handful of people in one neighborhood that can then walk the hilltop, which is a park that people are, just because of what surrounds it, are mostly gonna drive to. And you don't have the school really bought into improving this for their use. It'd be a good thing to have, but I just don't see it as a priority personally. I think there are a lot of other locations that would connect a lot more, would get a lot more use by residents. It's just my 2 cents.
And I agree, the same people would now not have this, short walk to the school, which is, I'm sure, what the parents appreciate versus,
I assume that the 15-mile-an-hour signs are north on Newtown, right? So during school hours, if traffic is slow past Durwood Lane, right? I don't know off the top of my head, so I don't. See, sure, see it in the front of the building.
The 15-mile-per-hour flasher begins at just before Durwood. So
Okay.
they're in the 15-mile-an-hour zone at the Durwood intersection, technically.
So
So are you suggesting we not push this or look at another area for this type of grant?
I mean, I know this work has been done. I think you guys have done, given the design constraints, you've done a good job of solving it the best way you can. I just think the design constraints are such that the end result is a poor return on investment. Now, if it's a grant we happen to get and it's not East Town taxpayer dollars and it's found money, sure, it'd be nice to have, but it just strikes me as relatively low return on cost. If you look at that, I guess you guys priced it out in the earlier grant, but where you're cutting that sidewalk in there's literally rock on the side of the road up about 4 feet. It looks like the road was already cut through rocks, so.
Yeah, we did price that in. That is part of the reason it's a higher price than you would probably expect for a sidewalk improvement project, is to accommodate that that constraint, right? Now we don't have those constraints along Beaumont. So again, not to redirect, but obviously assuming the township decides to pursue the grant, and that's up to the township. Certainly you don't have those same restrictions and limitations along Beaumont Road.
you have more residents on Walmart.
I mean, it depends how far you
Yeah,
walk from,
go, right?
yeah, but they're both low traffic roads. You can walk along the road for quite a ways.
Yeah.
And then are the residents that live along Beaumont responsible for maintaining those sidewalks?
Or Newtown, you mean? Oh,
Newtown, right, sorry,
Yeah.
on Newtown.
They would be, and both of them are off of Durwood and Beaumont, so the likelihood that they're gonna shovel
They're not gonna get.
250
Yeah.
feet worth of
Yeah, was the
sidewalk.
resident will be responsible for maintaining.
Yeah, the resident is responsible for shoveling this snow in the.
So they give up their land and then they have to shovel the snow as well.
It's not their land then.
Right away.
Right,
Right
that's what I mean.
away. Yeah.
That seems how we acquired it.
I mean,
You're right.
I want to add that this is in the comp plan as a location that they want.
I know a lot of work.
I think it's the fact that you're making any kid who goes to that school from that area
who were trying to serve that area now walk, I'm gonna estimate 5 times further than they walk today. And then we're doing it so that they can walk to the park. But every day we know they're gonna walk to the school, 5 days a week. And how often are they gonna walk to the park?
But.
Is there any way we can just
No
do?
kids, no kids are authorized to walk. to
Yeah,
school.
it's
There's actually
not
no
a
kid
safe.
that's authorized to walk to Belmont School.
Well, there's a lot of things that aren't authorized.
I get that, but
We're talking that we're putting a fence up
I have-
to prevent those kids who
I
aren't
have-
authorized to
I
be
have-
safe.
I have seen kids walk.
Oh, they do, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
None of them are authorized to walk.
The nice thing is in the summertime, when kids are off, if they get on their bikes now, they can probably safely ride their bike on a sidewalk and get to the park and play.
I do see a lot of people walking up and down Newtown Road, there are a lot of people walking.
Yeah.
Even worse, I see a lot of people walking up and down Church Road.
I think it's a good idea, I think it's a good idea without the fence, I don't like it with the fence. But I think, those are right,
So,
it's going to be a low return on investment.
I'll say this, is obviously PennDOT's gonna have to look at this, they're probably gonna request the fence. And get improvements on one side of the street and not the other. That's probably one reason they get it. If you're crossing a state, whatever, it's not, no one's encouraging you to cross there, who's doing now. So, once one kid gets hit, it's guaranteed the project. So it's just, I think anytime we can add sidewalks to park to resident community, I should take.
Is part of the plan to extend it beyond this? I know this was the grant for a certain portion, but I forget what the rest of this.
Yeah, I mean, for
Does
phase.
it get extended beyond this, the next phase?
So I think an alternative, well, there's two extension, one alternative for phase shows it's actually connecting to the existing crossing to the school. Maybe in the future, I don't know what school's opinion is, maybe they wanna take that as an alternative, of putting a sidewalk. Down on the other side, but I think there's the possibility of extending it further. South toward, like going further, I guess, on the map form to the right.
Sure.
Is the reason why you can't cross anywhere else, the hill, the site distance of the hill? Why you can't put a crossing in Newtown if there would,
Correct.
or or mid block or anywhere?
I mean, there's
Correct.
already a signal there, right? Like a flashing, is there already a beacon thing, like a sign for people walking?
No,
There's a
Ju-
stop sign.
just the flashing for the school speed limit sign, not, there's no flashing for the ped crossing. And we did evaluate, trying to locate a ped crossing at the top of the hill. PennDOT was not a fan of that. Their preference was to do, for safety reasons, sight distance still wasn't great. With the proximity to a stop controlled intersection, they were not in support of trying to provide a mid-block crossing between the two intersections. When we met with them for the TASA project a couple of years ago, I did measure just so that we have accurate numbers. To the front of the school, it's about double the length, so it's about 650 feet. To the front of the school, if you just cross and go down the diagonal path we've been talking about to the back of the school, that's about 650. If you actually traverse the sidewalk that we would be proposing, it would be about 1,200.
Any residents live down, subdivision on Darwood.
There are 20 houses that probably grow it.
How many?
I was gonna say approximately 20, 25, maybe at the most. I have a good friend that lives there. Yeah, there was.
I think I counted it.
Assuming you're not talking about continuing on way back there.
I think I counted it for the application. I think it was close to 40 of the, like you said, depending on how.
Yeah,
long
or
you
you
wanna
go back,
carry it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we just take Durwood and go straight down to where. Circle and go to right. Starting tossing it over there.
Yeah, and it's obviously connecting neighborhoods too, right? So now all of a sudden, a kid who's got kid lives in Beaumont Road, has got a friend that lives on Durwood, they can walk through each other's house. I mean, it does provide other connectivity beyond just getting people to the park or to the school or the administrative building. It does connect communities as well.
Why didn't we go down Beaumont? What was the reason between Newtown and Beaumont? Why did we pick Newtown?
To go down Beaumont, the
Yeah.
sidewalk, you mean?
Yeah, we could go all the way down. Gotta be more people living in Beaumont. Beaumont, they're off, Durwood.
You mean like south or down Beaumont?
Towards 252.
That would be next, I would think if there's a phase, that would be the next phase, that's.
Okay.
Sure, I think that's definitely a little more complex.
Because that's pretty wide and
Pretty far too.
big. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I see people walking, they're surprised to see people walking. I know a lot of people would like that,
I mean, it's definitely a pinch point, because
yeah. I mean,
it's dangerous where you cannot walk.
I see, Bill, I see your point, I mean, this is, yeah, bang for the bucks, but. If there's money, if it's state or federal money, we're going after, it's available.
Yeah, that's why I'm not, like I said, I'm not taking the sign, I would recommend option 3, if the work's been done. You know, I just. I guess my point is, we have to take into account this criteria we can't change. And at a certain point of working so far around those criteria, they not really achieving goal.
Yeah, and the sidewalk is for, other users, disabled users. Sure. But the shortest path, obviously, for a lot of people will be.
So is the ask of us to decide which route is
Which of these options?
most we like? And it sounds to me like everybody likes 3.
Thanks, I guess, do we have the work done to make the grant application? It's not like we're
Yeah.
investing more money in the
Yeah,
grant.
Bowman's,
application.
they're preparing it now.
Yeah, so. I guess my
The
point
other-
is just about future considerations. That's all.
Sure.
The one other thing I'll add for your consideration is DCED grant applications. That the award is not always 100% of the ask. Oftentimes you'll get a percentage of what you request. So if you go in for the full amount and DCED comes back with offering you 70%, you'd be justified then at that point to say, all right, well, we're just going to go back to the original TASA design and get, because that's all the amount of money you're giving me, and they'd probably be willing to approve it. So you could still fall back to what was originally proposed if you didn't get the full asking price of the grant application. But all the more reason to go for a little extra, and then you have that to fall back on.
Yeah. I do think the improvements along Beaumont, just connecting the township property and the park. And then providing a crossing to the school seems like that would be a good thing. That's a fraction of the total cost of what's drawn.
So the township would be responsible for shoveling the sidewalk along Beaumont, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can tell you right now that if we do this. This parking lot is going to be used extensively on this, well, it's sledding into the pipe. Is that parking lot at Hilltop? It's.
Yes.
Well, it's a snow day, so it should be.
Yeah.
I have a question about the, I guess the shown in alternative 1, the sidewalk that's going through the parking lot, the Hilltop parking lot. That's just a painted sidewalk?
Yeah, we're just representing what we'd have. We would want to try, if we actually put that into the concept plan, we might try to show some sort of striping to help delineate that this is a pedestrian access route, whether it be some sort of sharrows or striping to help delineate how they're going to get through the parking lot to enhance the application and the connectivity of the project. So it doesn't look like we're just dumping sidewalk and pedestrians into the middle of the park, into the back corner of the parking lot and saying, find your way.
Gotcha.
So. Are we in agreement that alternative three is probably the best and most comprehensive one?
Thanks, Leslie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's all you need, just, we don't need a motion for that, right?
Okay. Can I ask one last question? Based on these drawings, would my guess be that the priority for this grant is to sidewalk along, I guess what is that? Is it Church Road? Newtown Road, right.
Yeah.
Newtown Road versus doing work on Beaumont Road.
The, I don't think we would prioritize it in the application. We would only have to prioritize it if the grant application received less than 100% funding. So I don't think that's a decision you'd have to make right now.
Okay.
But I guess theoretically, yes, that would be the fallback, as the priority is to provide that connection. But ultimately, that's a decision the township can make at a later date once we get the results of the grant funding, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the LSA grant, Route 30 Police Streets Initiative.
Great, I'll kick us off. Good evening, Randy Waltemeyer with Bowman. I'm a senior project manager. Wait, yeah, Chris Williams, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself?
Chris Lankenau, Burton Partners.
There'll be a sub-consultant to Bowman, Tom
Carino from Thomas Quinn Associates.
and Brent.
Brian Donovan, Bowman.
So tonight's serving as our kickoff meeting for this project. We did provide you this background memo. Really not gonna spend maybe not that much time on it, but just some of the highlights. First of all, there's a definition of, I think it's good to get a few definitions out there, just what is a complete street? There's been a lot of communities adopting either complete street policies. In fact, later on in the memo, it notes there's been 1,700 communities across the United States have passed complete street policies. So what is a complete street? It really is providing accommodations for all modes. Even from this opening photograph, you can see there's a SEPTA bus service. The 106 runs along Lancaster Avenue. Certainly have pedestrians crossing, certainly motorists as well. Currently, as the picture there shows, we have a 4-lane cross section for most part of Lancaster Avenue. And then even bicyclists, I wasn't out there for more than maybe 5 minutes and snapped that photograph and see. Of course, it's very constrained and narrow. There's no shoulders, so that bicyclist is really having to take that rightmost lane. So really the one of those aspects would be thinking about how can all those modes be accommodated through the heart of the village. This concept, just flipping over to page 2 of the memo. So we're focusing on Route 30 or Lancaster Avenue from Leopard Road to Lakeside, really the heart of the village, looking at the operations thereof. The whole concept, the genesis is really well rooted in the township's comprehensive plan. We put some of those references on page 3. And I think that there's some, I think here on this graphic, it's good, another good definition to kind of explore and talk just a little bit about is the concept of a road diet. I think in this context, that would be the idea of, or the concept of going from a 4-lane cross section, which currently to a 3-lane cross section, basically eliminating a travel lane in each direction in favor of a center turn lane. That can provide the better ability to make left turns, or there's other variations that could provide more on-street parking. But there's been a lot of study of the adjustment from a 4-lane cross section to a 3-lane cross section. Really, I know there's a major, we can get into this later on in subsequent meetings, but that the 3-lane cross sections have just been studied across the industry to be safer. You're getting rid of a lot of those rear ends caused by the lack of a left turn lane. And it's shown very nominal reduction in travel speeds because there's a lot of delay introduced by those turning cars that it streamlines that. But there's other ways to make Berwyn a complete street. If this 3 lane is not viewed as desirable, we will definitely we'll explore what other ways can Lancaster Avenue be completed and as alternative to that. And we'll touch a little bit that further on in the scope of work. But there's also the township's park, the rec and open space and environmental plan, which further amplified these recommendations. Tom, do you want to speak any further to that on page 4?
Sure, I think we looked at the village of Berlin and in the open space, the recreation open space environmental resource plan. And just had some placeholder ideas on to relate to the pedestrian and bicycle mobility and sidewalks and pedestrian amenities that Nick had helped us with when we were working on that plan. And I talked about some of the goals, which was like the comprehensive plan to transition to a complete street, explore pedestrian gathering spaces, streetscape enhancements, connections for walkability and pedestrian access, and then the whole idea of traffic calming. So fortunately, the comprehensive plan and the recreation open space environmental resource plan kind of tease up this initiative. And I think in large part, when we applied for the LSA grant in November of 2023, it was partially on the strength of those 2 planning documents being the foundation for what we're doing.
Great. And then certainly there's also the parking study. Certainly if that road diet concept would be recommended, it could provide more opportunity for on-street parking or other things like larger sidewalks, plazas, etc. So all of that would be within the purview when the alternatives go forward. We'll get a little bit deeper into the scope of work. I'm not going to go all the way in, but we'll talk further about that momentarily. So I think that's probably just for the sake of our I want to go down maybe one more page, Colleen, just to note, we pulled some other local examples of communities, all very proximate, and in fact, we could have probably filled 3 more pages, like Haverford. So that the point being, many communities and many of your counterparts have embraced similar policies and ideas. Just the idea of bringing more emphasis, especially to the pedestrian orientation, that can really, and that when someone feels safe and accommodated, they tend to stay and linger longer and shop longer, and there's an economic development connection with the complete streets. And in many of these communities, you've started to see that. So it's exactly why, and we'll speak why there's a market analysis within this project to look at the nexus and linkage between those 2. Really, I'll say this memo we've also written in a way that we, when we're going to have some of our public engagement, that this can be a nice primer. Probably a lot of this is not new news to you, but we'll be able to use this memo to explain to the public and others kind of, if they've heard nothing about this project or concept before, this will be a good setup piece for their benefit. And so with that, we also at the very end have a very simplified schedule, just to walk through that. Really, we'll get a little bit into the more detailed one, but just for we simplified that. Well, we have about 12 or 13 tasks in our scope. We've even simplified that down to basically making it look like there's about 3 or 4 tasks just for the public's digestibility here. and what are some of the main outcomes? Really, this begins to give, and we can even use this here. We're gonna explore about up to five alternatives in that alternatives and analysis, looking to come out of that with a preferred concept. We have a thorough traffic analysis that will help to vet all of those alternatives. And then really looking to settle in on that preferred concept. With this budget, actually, if Brian's still on, he'll be overseeing the engineering side. We are a lot of these studies, we don't actually get topographic survey, but with this, we will be getting a full topographic survey next month to really have this well grounded in the engineering reality. We don't have to tell this group, there's constraints to Berwyn, it's tight. So actually that survey detail is really gonna help us make sure that it's ground truth and well vetted throughout the concepts. That really by the end of this about 18-month project, we'll really have basically preliminary engineering of what the preferred concept would look like, really set up the township for very strong engagement with PennDOT. We are scoped to have a technical meeting with PennDOT, making sure they have bought into our traffic analysis and whatever alternative we move forward. And really at the end of it have a blueprint here for what the 30 corridor could look like and how to then advance it moving forward. Finally, we have towards I think the very last page, we know placemaking is going to be a very strong element to this. So Tom, if you want to explain a little bit of the placemaking.
Colleen, can you just bring the image down a little bit? So this last page is just titled Town Square Considerations. In the workshops that we had at Hilltop House, a person sitting close to me named Michael Wasey mentioned several times that if we ever got to a complete streets initiative, to what extent could we explore town square considerations? And thanks to what Stacy's already done at Handles and the farmers market on Sundays and that wonderful space, the circle that my colleague Aaron's virtual tonight, pretty much envelops what Stacy has already created. If the stars had been in different alignment in the southwest corner, if there wasn't a larger apartment building, there might have been an opportunity for plaza space at that corner. Admittedly, on the southeast corner, there's a parking lot that services the restaurant there. There are places that in the world that have put subsurface parking in order to daylight plaza space on the top, but at least we have a seed idea to build upon. And then Colleen, if you could just move up, the middle images are thanks to Stacy and what she's accomplished there. I go there at all times of day and night and weekend to just admire, what's happening there. And then down the bottom, basically the farmers market on the left on a very sunny Sunday last summer. And then in Westchester, the plaza at 44 West at Gay and Church Streets, providing this opportunity for gathering. So we're going to explore that. But realize just a couple of really big picture items. Route 30 goes all the way across the country. Route 66 goes all the way across the country. If you went to New Oxford Borough or Gettysburg Borough, New Oxford is close to Gettysburg. They have done complete streets initiatives. And what they did is capitalized on the Lincoln Highway Association and some of the signage and wayfinding signage and so forth. If you're on Route 66 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, all about signage and streetscape enhancements. So not only in Pennsylvania, but in many other states, we have a lot of good precedents. The many that Randy showed nearby, and then there's nationwide precedents. The state of Maryland put out a publication many years ago called "When Main Street is a State Highway," with advice on how do you humanize it. So anyway, we're gonna explore all those options.
We have another attachment with this is just the Bowman scope of work. Tom's is pretty similar. The only thing I want to focus on two things with this, and that's the second task, which is engagement. We know success for these plans is a lot of it. You shouldn't have to have it well grounded in technical, credibility and analysis. But engagement is huge for these projects. So we'll have 6 check-ins with you as our steering committee, basically quarterly. And we have that laid out in the project schedule. We'll have 2 public workshops. The first of those is more exploring those 5 alternatives and getting their feedback to it. And really, I'll even quickly, we'll be doing an online survey. That's one of our first actions. We're slated for that to go live in June, this next month. And that'll run through July. And
How are you gonna get that word out to the public?
we are in the midst of developing a flyer for that. Would like to get the memo posted to the township's website so they can already take in what what the background is to kind of set them up for the survey. And we welcome any other tactics or ideas. The one we've identified is we're scoped to do a pop-up engagement, and we would like to do that at the front end of promoting the survey, whether it's at the farmers market or Handles or strategically. And with the main driver is we'll be out there on a Saturday to encourage folks to take the survey. We well know that as great as this venue is, we're gonna have our traditional public meetings, but sometimes you gotta get out and go to where the public is and not expect them to come here to be engaged in this project. So that's exactly why we're gonna, kind of take to the streets, meet them right there and get their input through a pop-up engagement.
The township has just formed a communications committee as well. So it's part of, this will be a good first, I don't wanna call it first task, but a first task for them to kind of jump on and get the word out, or how to put it on the website, to get the
Can
website.
we make sure that gets into the Easttown Township magazine, like in this next issue?
I can request that.
If they could write like a little article about it or something, so that people will read that, and then that certainly would get them aware of it and.
And I'm actually remembering, Brian, we've drafted also a press release for the township to use both in a social media blast.
Sure.
As well as traditional press outlets.
Okay, that's good.
You can get in touch with the schools, they send out emails to everybody every week, so.
Okay.
And local sports leagues getting those emails and stuff like that, they put everything in those sites.
Yeah.
And on the survey, will there be a way to just make sure that, I guess if you're hitting, well, I guess maybe does it matter if if a person lives in Tredyffrin or Easttown, or are you trying to really target Easttown residents?
Right, Craig, we have a question in there so we can filter it.
We have a zip code question, basically, where do you live, and also other stuff about like, why do you use the corridor, maybe it's just you're driving through, right, but yeah.
Great, so and then we other highlights, we'll have 3 check-ins with the supervisors. while, you know, you'll be kind of serving as our steering committee, but we also want to make sure that we're closely aligned and have appropriate check-in points with the supervisors. And then as noted, about halfway through the project also we are planning to do our technical check-in with PennDOT and SEPTA and or the county, just to make sure that, again, that especially PennDOT is well bought into our alternatives.
Just out of curiosity, are you guys like set on that zip code question as opposed to asking if they're a township, like an East Town or two different resident? Because, you know, like my parents live out near Edgemont in Lewistown, they're Berwyn zip code. And I live like down the street and I'm in Paoli zip code, you know, like. It's,
Yeah, I don't think we thought of the zip code question as,
Yeah.
as vetting like who we're listening to or not, but maybe
Yeah.
just getting a feel for who's answering, right, where they live. But I think there are other ways. I mean, I think we can also include a question about is if they're a resident or not.
Yeah.
Based down.
I would, you know, I'd like to know what the residents of Tredyffrin and East Town think about this as opposed, like I'd probably afford them more weight in what their opinions are compared to, you know, the people out in Lewistown, you know?
Yeah, we can make that pivot, and it sounds like it'll give
Yeah,
you and others more
yeah.
usability of the data and yeah, that's. We can make that adjustment.
Alright, cool,
Idea.
great.
Randy, what kind of questions are you asking initially? Like, what is it, just more streetscape or just like kind of things like, are you looking for improving, like you like sidewalk, like what kind of questions, just to.
Mostly the tone you'll see are more, how do you use the corridor and what do you find to be existing challenges? It's more the whole goal of this is issue identification, with it being towards the front of the project. Ryan, you wanna, any other questions that jumped in?
Yeah, mostly about how you use it, and so just specifically even questions about, you know, do you go to one business and go home, or do you walk around and see what's going on? Do you drive through and don't stop, or do you know, like the things along those lines?
Kind of give you like that purpose of need, kind of.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, cause, you know, I don't know, sometimes I feel like when people hear road diet, they're like, oh, you're taking the lane away, so
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, they should have named that something different.
Yeah, I say lane
It's not great marketing.
lane reallocation sometimes, but no
Yeah.
matter how you slice it when they hear it.
But I don't think any of that comes up in the survey, because the road diet is a potential solution, and it may not be the preferred solution.
Yeah.
So I think right now, as Randy said, I think we're just trying to set the stage for the issues, understand the issues. That will then guide the development of the alternative. So road diet doesn't even enter into the conversation at this point, because the cake isn't baked yet. That may not be what it ends up being.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of the tasks are, I'd say, pretty self-explanatory and don't need to be elaborated. But I do want to give some time for Chris to speak to the market analysis. Candidly, there was even questions early on of, you know, why was this included? I think that we want to elaborate, but and then also Chris has some flexibility on what uses he would focus on. We've identified some through our initial, but there's flexibility there, so I won't speak anymore and let Chris elaborate.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. Yeah, so, you know, I think we thought an important component of the overall village plan was, you know, examining what are some uses that could complement some of these infrastructure and transportation improvements. So we do this type of work a lot. We look at you know, market opportunities and village centers or communities as they relate to development and transportation improvements. So I think the thought here was, you know, kind of looking at the basic potential uses that could complement the village. We're looking at potentially retail, both rental and for sale residential, entertainment, and then you know, a certain type of office space. We all know the office market is not what it was even before COVID. So a lot of places aren't even looking at office, but for retail, you know, this area's got a lot of retail, but I think there's probably always more potential for additional retail that could complement what you have, that could infill some of your commercial spaces. We're not talking about a Walmart or anything like that, but probably more locally serving, independently owned type of businesses that we could identify. From the residential, we propose to look at both rental and for sale. I wanted to get your sense of either or both. Do you think a setting like this would be a place where people might purchase, a townhouse or condo or that kind of thing? Or do you think we're thinking more apartment, or do we not want either, to be honest? That's
I
something.
think we have proof of both.
Okay,
I mean,
Yeah.
there's small homes right in the village,
Right.
there's the townhouses that are where the, behind the Goodwill.
Yeah.
And then there's, obviously Fritztown and
Mhm.
there's tons of little like multi-use where it's retail on the first floor and 5 apartments above.
Right. Yeah.
All through the village.
Yeah, I wouldn't discriminate between them.
Okay.
Two,
And
to
plus,
be honest, I would encourage mixed use in the sense that.
yeah, ground floor,
Yeah,
residential above, yeah.
that kind of village concept, but.
Yep. Okay, good. Entertainment, I could come in a lot of different forms. For other places we've looked at. It depends on the setting. I think this type of village setting, you're not talking about, mini golf or, a driving range. It could be more, small. There are places that have like, some bowling lanes and some, a stage for live entertainment and, axe throwing in the corner or down in the basement. I mean, there are all kinds of options like that that could be interesting. So I just wanted to see if that was something you thought might be appropriate or something that you thought, I'm not sure about in this location. Certainly something we could take a look at. And the method for that would probably be really to see what types of uses are similar around here. That could be competition.
Bowling lanes and depth.
Right. And then even further, is there maybe an operator that could consider a second location in Berwyn, for example, that might have a local establishment? We've had that success before, where just talking to folks, they're like, hey, I'm thinking of expanding and this might be an interesting location. So we could kind of suss that out a bit too. So, okay. So we'll just, we'll take a look at what some of the appropriate options could be as part of the analysis. For office, I think the thought here is small professional, maybe insurance, dentist, maybe co-sharing. I could take a look at what, again, some of the competition is around. But I think that scale is probably what we're talking about, not a 40,000 square foot spec office type of thing by any stretch of the imagination.
Plenty of that around.
Yeah. But you're trying to convert to residential, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, all right, that sounds good. One thing that did come to mind, we didn't mention, I just jotted down, any thoughts on like a hotel? Kind of a smaller boutique kind of thing, or we could take a look at that. And then events space, like a small retreat, wedding venue kind of thing, depending on if there's, that gets a bit more complicated because that's not a continuous use, so it's got its peaks of activity, which may or may not be the best for a village in certain locations.
The
So
only issue with that
Yeah.
to me would be, it's usually an evening or weekend
yeah,
use,
exactly.
and it requires a lot of parking. And
Yeah.
You already have a lot of food establishments that are competing for parking. People always find parking. When we've done the parking studies before, no one ever said they left Berwyn because they couldn't find a spot. They just parked a little farther.
Yeah. And we've done, in this very area, we've done some for other projects, for the Willows project, for example. I just, it was like 5 years ago, looking at all the event space. There's a ton of event space between you know, barns and country clubs, so. You probably have a lot of competition anyway, so, yeah. So maybe we stick to what we outlined here and see where that puts us. Okay, that's very helpful. Yeah, I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just on all those things you're talking about, to this to be a village and have that, it really needs, and the place, the references, place you talked about needs public parking. Because right now, the way it is, every place requires its own parking, so you can't go from point A to point B to point C, you have to park, you have to get in your car and move to each one. So I would, if you're gonna look at all these things, I would ask you to look at where can we put public parking so people can park one place and attend all these different things that you're anticipating.
If you do something that's event oriented,
No,
because
just
right now,
even these things like,
yeah, sure.
retail, like right now, retail, we have 3 retail establishments and you wanna go to all 3, you gotta park at each one legally.
Right.
Right, that's not.
If we have more sidewalks, people could potentially walk them.
No, but they can't because they're parked at point A, they're not allowed to go to point B because they're in person A's parking. They've
But
gotta-
it happens all the time.
I know,
Everybody has private parking. There's no public parking. Everybody uses private
and
parking.
that's what I'm saying, is we
Yeah.
should have public parking so people can park once and then go to A and B and C. And not,
Do not come to me and ask for any of my parking lots to be built on the
you
parking.
know, I'm just saying,
Where else are you gonna get it from? But I'm just saying,
never say never.
it works.
Well, last, go ahead.
I was just gonna say cause some of these issues then beg the question, of does the scope expand beyond, we said a border of leopard and what is it, our lakeside?
Yeah.
But I mean, the task is, it looks pretty simple and or not simple, clear in your scope of work, that's your area for study.
I mean, clearly some of this
Maybe
would
that-
expand into other parts of Easttown Township, Joe.
That's my point, there's a lot of these themes are the same, the next item on the agenda,
Yeah.
the same discussion, and those aren't contiguous, that's Devon, which is the next station east,
Yes.
but. You know, there's a lot of common themes.
Yeah, so in the scope of work, there's a section called parking procurement.
Yeah,
And it's like a magic trick, but the question would be, where the heck are we gonna find it? And is it gonna be something that the township would purchase as public space? Would we rent space? So all the times I've done the inspections at Pritztown, and I might be wrong, I don't see anybody parked in the western parking lot at Pritztown. They
It is more and more now. I think they've
More
built
now?
out more. Mhm.
Okay, so, could the bay of parking closest to the train station become rental parking as part of the parking procurement plan? Don't know.
Yeah.
So,
That's all, yeah, and that's exactly as we get deeper into this, so that we can explore. Really, if time would permit, we wanna ask 2 questions. I try to do this for every project. And it's great to keep us both in line with what you view as success and also to avoid potholes and failure. And so, I would love to have each of you respond to these 2 questions. This project will be a success if fill in the blank, and this project will be a failure if and fill in the blank. And we've done as much talking as I wanted us to do, and now we want to be active listeners, hearing from what you've heard so far, help us define both success and failure for this project.
who you wanna call on?
Go down the road. Sure. Success to me would be, slowing traffic and adding some street parking. And, I would love some safe pedestrian crosswalks. They missed it with Fritz and there needs to be something in the middle of that block. The failure would be, we do all this work and then we do nothing. Because we know what we have now, and it's not good enough.
No.
You know, I think success is, seeing what you come up with in your market plan. When we first kicked this off, it was about how to get a village plan. And we knew we wanted a market analysis of what could this area sustain, how could we develop it? one of the recommendations from the manager was go with the road diet first. Because he'd been through it enough times to see what it was about, so when I'm, hearing about the street and all. I don't know what the potential for the area is, we've got the railroad tracks, let's really limit those. We've got a height restriction that takes away a lot of the stuff we're talking about. And as far as parking goes. As Stacy says, I've been to Berwyn 1,000 times, I've never had a problem getting parking. But the whole point is we're trying to make it a bigger, better place for people to come, which means at some point, we're gonna have a parking problem. So I think. What options for the zoning do we have to address in addition to the village that we have? I mean, if you're gonna build a parking garage or something, where are you gonna put it? Put something on top of it that would require zoning, are we willing to look at those kinds of things? Are we looking to put a plaza on top of a parking garage and you got your mix of open space and, or put an underground plotting garage, maybe it's really expensive, but you don't see it. It's nice, so I think the potential to get this is what we need someone to analyze, look at. First off, see what's the economic viability of doing something in the township. And then if you would do it, what's the visual impact, different ways you can make it look good. And to me, so that's what I'm looking at, is how do you turn this into what we want it to be, look good. As far as failure goes, yeah. Did you say if we do nothing?
We do nothing. We play.
I would agree with that. We've been sitting as a community for many years trying to get there. So yeah, definitely we'd like to get there.
In my opinion, success would be, to see, down the road, to be able to drive through there, walk through there, and see a really vibrant place, bigger sidewalks, more people walking around. But yeah, better uses of the retail space. There's, you got like plumber business, like you got like HVAC businesses right there on 30, I'd love to get to a point where, the property value, like there's so much more foot traffic around there that, it would almost make sense for a retailer to want to be in that space instead. Like I said, bigger sidewalks, I mean, there's gonna be kids walking over there from the high school and from the middle school. They already are on those small sidewalks. And yeah, I particularly the area like where Bridge Avenue and Old Lancaster hit 30, maybe having a better use of that, instead of a tire shop or something like that, if we could, put something in place to make it so other uses are gonna want to be there, that would be awesome. I think failure would be, just, getting more applications for banks and single-use apartment buildings and stuff like that. That would really, and not seeing any like sidewalks and people walking around, that would really be a bummer.
Yeah, a lot of similar themes. I mean, I'd like to see a more pedestrian friendly, true village type feel. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. You have, a huge school system right across the tracks here. I have middle schoolers and high schoolers that walk through Berwyn, and it's a really unfriendly kind of walk place for them. It doesn't have that community that welcomes, children and adults and has different uses. So I'd love to see that, and a lot of what my colleagues up here said, I think we're generally on the same page. And Stacy, your failure was mine for sure, which is that, we sort of have everybody's vision of the perfect is going to be different, and at a certain point, you end up with you becoming the enemy of the good. So what I'd love to see you guys do is come up with concrete steps we can take, and to the extent that you can, sort of a framework that helps pick some of the low hanging fruit so that people can understand and start to see, look, something new and something different can be better and lead to more. And so try to be incrementalist in a way, I guess, in your recommendations, or at least allow us to pick some of the early pieces to actually manifest. So which I think will hopefully lead to more buy-in and more success for the long-term project.
If I could go back again real quick, and I know this is kind of just piggybacking on what I've already said, but I just want to highlight the school because you have so many kids who you see walk across this crosswalk and they go from here all the way down to here to go to the tea shop or across the street to Handles. And they're walking down this entire corridor and there's nowhere they can go. You know, and it would be great to see them being able to hang out here to get ice cream or something like that, or down, or right here to get like the boba tea, you know? It's kind of crazy that they had to walk through the entire village. To leave the village to go to a place where they wanna go.
And they're not a particular.
Chris, find us some
transit.
teen friendly, adolescent focused land uses.
Yeah,
Coffee shop.
but I think so, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and like some of the things, some of the
Not
other,
continuity.
it's like, what does my 16-year-old daughter, like, she shops for and buys acai bowls that I've never heard of before. It's like, it's a different, but there's a niche for all the playa bowls, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo what everybody's saying and I piggyback on that. I mean, my success for me is when I go out, I don't want to go to Wayne anymore. I want to stay in Berlin.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
really the success for me. And I think, I mean, in reality, I want to incorporate many of the elements of complete street. I know we can't do everything, but try to get as many as possible. And obviously failure is if we don't do anything. And I think another failure is increase in accidents, you know, whether it's pedestrian or vehicles. So,
I could add that another failure might be if my Uber monthly bill stays the same, so. Get that down, it was a lot for it, Your Honor.
We got
Yeah.
Good way of looking at it.
Well, great. I think that's a perfect way for us to wrap up and this discussion for this evening. It gives us I love this exercise because right from day one, it gives us, we go back, type this up and say, okay, let's make sure our game plan is gonna help us achieve success and certainly avoid failure. And so I thank for this feedback. We'll certainly be in touch, and I'm excited to kind of go on this journey with you together and really throw it all against the wall. There's some really good, the traffic analysis. I should note, we're gonna really be able to model this, even look at it in what's called sim traffic. I know that everyone in their own minds maybe has what's this gonna look like if it is 3 lanes? Well, we'll be able to visualize that and show it, kind of demystify that.
Yeah.
For the benefit of everyone as well.
That may be the easy part of the, so.
There are some guests. Colleen, is anyone with their hand up?
Nobody has their hand up. Here's one. Tom, you're second. Can you hear us? Addie?
He's over here, yeah.
Can you hear us?
Maybe she hit her hand on the
Do
same.
you have her muted by any chance?
No, I don't.
She's
Yeah,
unmuted.
yes, sir.
Oh, here she comes.
Here you go.
Hands dropped.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, one down, okay.
Tom, you're not second.
Oh,
There-
hi.
There
Can you
we
hear me
go.
now?
There, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thanks. I'm Adrienne Strickler. I live at 211 Old Lancaster, so very interested in this topic that you discussed tonight. I'm very excited to hear some of the proposals and plans. I just wanted to add that I would really encourage you to include the portion of Old Lancaster and Lakeside Road that and the bridge also that connects Old Lancaster to that portion of the road in your analysis. I think that is a big problem area that we have and is really key to improving that is really key to meeting some of the goals that you've outlined here. And will help with the pedestrian traffic because there are a lot of neighborhoods north of the railroad that would take advantage of having a more pedestrian friendly village. So just wanted to add those thoughts and encourage you to really look at that area in close detail.
Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback.
And Randy, I have one question. So, excuse me, last Friday, Tom Esty and I were at Gallery Walk in Westchester. Twice a year, the first Friday in May, first Friday in October. Beside the farmer's market on Sundays, is there an entity, an association that has programmed events occasionally through the year?
The business association does, so I was gonna give you my card so we can get in touch and we can connect you with all the right people.
Okay, because that would be very useful. Because to the points that were made about success and failure, however good of a job we do, having programmed events becomes a very important element long term. So.
Yeah. We're trying to do more and more of that, and like with Easttown 250, I think that's really gonna kick things off in doing more community events that are celebratory, that bring people together. And the feeling is, I think that if we get people in the habit of doing that in 2025 and 2026, it will continue on with more things, because people will be like, wow, that was really fun. Let's do more of that.
Molly has a question. Molly, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, I just wanted to echo what Adrian said. I live at 245 Highland. I'm also on that side. That bridge is a little concerning even for adults going under it. If we want to walk to the farmer's market, or if our children want to walk to Handles. And I do think, and to your point about events, like when we first moved in, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have like Santa and a reindeer in that area, and it's walking distance for us, but with little kids in the dark, we would never have tried that bridge. So we would always have to drive. La Cabra is walking distance. My husband and I would walk to get a beer, but we don't even want to walk under that bridge. So I just agree with Adrian on that. Also, I'm sorry I joined a little late, but if we did change things, if the things were going to change or there was any construction, would that be explained like to the middle school and the children that do walk? Would it impact their routes? I don't need an answer now, but if it did, would that just be part of the communication in any future plans, so that children who have a safe route now would understand if they were impacted in the interim while it was getting better? It's just a thinking about, middle schoolers that walk home safely. That was it. Sorry.
Yeah, we're not yet at that point of specifying those impacts, but certainly I'd agree that proper communication, especially when knowing if there's a walking population, that we would certainly encourage that communication for all children.
Right. I know it's premature, just a consideration for, right, if it does roll out, just to make sure it's communicated to those folks. Because some of us who have middle schoolers who walk, we have a set system and then we know that they trust. So if it were changing, we just want to work with them on it to keep them safe through the interim.
Colleen, to her point, is there a possibility that the township could look at putting some sort of lighting under that bridge or around that bridge that would make it at least brighter at night, so it felt a little safer? It is kind of daunting.
Yeah, I can pass it along and see what we can do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're next due to report back in August. Crazy as that feels like a long time from now, but yet it'll be here before we know it. And we'll have the results already of the public survey from the summer to really get into hopefully some validation of what we've discussed tonight. And then really look to begin rolling up our sleeves and beginning to start to think about some of the alternatives that would begin to address those key issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But we can get letters line, use plaza.
Like you want us to leave that plan?
We'll take care of it.
Okay, like this is all incorrect, as the owner.
We have.
You feel free to doodle on it, if anybody's got a great idea, just
Yeah.
draw away, yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Jim.
you. See you later. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the PBO Devon Center zoning comprehensive plan aligned with draft memo. So. Talked about this briefly at our last meeting. In order to get the ball rolling and potentially secure funding from the supervisors, we needed to put together a memo basically saying what, you know, 100,000 foot view, you know, what our goal is, what we're trying to do. Doesn't really get into specifics, it just, again, just gets the ball rolling. So this is what we've come up with. And I took a look at it, I'm cool with the way it's worded and the way it's written and requested is. Anybody else have any thoughts about this or?
I read it, I liked it.
Okay,
Sounds good.
yeah,
I have one comment, which is just under the bullet that says text code. We say the VB and VT text should serve as a starting point or first vision.
yeah,
I agree with that in concept. I worry that may, people might figure, okay, we're just cutting and pasting that, and I have heard feedback that, you know, that Devon is different, and I agree with that. But the same token, actually, after hearing this last presentation tonight, I feel like there's a lot of what these folks are studying that can help inform this process.
Yeah.
So my thought is, do we just sort of take the current and work being done in Berwyn, and rather than saying that code is the starting point, we take I don't know exactly what verbiage I've used, but something that's more broad about the sort of vision and some of the issues that are gonna arise as part of this as a starting point.
You're gonna be 18 months away from their final report, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
But I can't believe this is gonna go much faster, no offense, but
I know.
That's why I
so
said
I mean,
that.
if they're gonna be presenting surveys, the survey results to us in a couple months, you know,
Yeah,
we got
that-
an idea what.
August probably would be very
That-
informative on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And this is.
I wasn't gonna tie it to that process, but
Sure.
the issues list would look awfully similar, I think.
Mhm.
And this is,
Some of the-
and this is to get the funds allocated.
Right.
For 26, so,
So we're already,
Yeah.
well,
So how would you reword it?
I'm,
I mean, would it,
what do you think? Am I making, I mean, you got my
I mean,
point, it's just.
it does say that it can, should, and likely would adjust the text.
Right, I don't have no issue with what this said, but I just think framing it as the village type vision being applied rather than the village code. being
Colleen, do you
applied.
think if we changed it from the VB and VT text should to the VB and VT text and serve as a starting point, that would impact?
You
Yeah.
can say,
Yeah.
like, even say can or may,
Yeah.
Man,
you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
may is a
Yeah.
very general,
Yeah.
loose term.
and do you think it makes sense that in this? I don't. You have to add that, or even just add a note that would say the. You know, we'll try
I
to
think
take
we
into
just
account
change that
feedback
word,
from
I
the
think we just
process.
change that word so that it
Can.
it could, it may or may not, like,
Right.
that's what may would mean.
Perfect, I'm fine with that, but.
Okay.
I guess that my point is.
Okay.
Good stuff. Just wanted to bring it up, everything else looks great.
And we should be good with May and everything else stays the same tone.
And Susan is here, so she can clarify that in the BOS, so.
Yeah, if everybody is in agreement, you could, make a motion to recommend to the board of supervisors with the change of word.
So I am going to make a motion that we recommend this memo to the board of supervisors. as written, except for changing the BB and BT text should through the BB and BT text may.
Second.
Any public comment?
No public comment online.
In the audience? No, okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And that is, we have liaison enforcement. Oh, yeah, any public comment?
Did you have something there?
I think we may have a public comment. There was a resident that reached out to me.
On this,
Well, nobody has their hand raised. So,
yeah, is that
Yeah,
person on?
there we go.
Hi, this is Adrian again. I already spoke on the other topic, which was really my motivation for attending this meeting. If the section of Old Lancaster Road and Lakeside Avenue and that bridge for Old Lancaster Road is not part of that project, then I would just like you to consider potentially doing a separate traffic analysis or study of that area to really look at how we can improve the traffic flow and the pedestrian ability in that section. So a bunch of neighbors have, kind of brainstormed about some ways that we could propose making changes there. So if we need to get involved, we're willing to do that. And yeah, that was why we came to this meeting today.
If I recall, we specifically said we were gonna analyze that during this process, right? That particular intersection, the bridge and all that area.
During the LS.
When we kicked this off, this whole process off, it was make sure that we take a look at that bridge in that area. So is that not part of what they're looking at?
They are looking at the corridor. Yeah, so just Route 30. So it wasn't
extended back to that area.
extended back into there.
In one of their handouts, it does have that area kind of highlighted.
Yeah, I thought it was red.
But I don't know.
I think the red is just what is BB zoning. I
Yeah,
don't think that
So
was
the red is
designed to highlight.
the
scope.
zoning area. What they are evaluating is just Route 30 for essentially to see if the road diet would be feasible.
Again, my understanding of this though is that this is kind of getting an idea, soliciting feedback from residents to see what can be done to improve things in this corridor. There is nothing that precludes us from in the future saying, hey, let's use this for Old Lancaster as well, right? Or
Yeah,
make it different.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that if we start, not saying we can't do it by any means, that's my disclaimer, but if we start inching out, where do we stop? Right, because you always have those areas, well, we're right next to it, so why don't we just do a little more to see? How about why don't we just extend it down here, like these were firm limits.
Well, I know people have brought up the safety concerns, dropping off their kids, double parking there on that
Yeah.
road and that whole thing. And
Yeah.
I just remember that being a significant part of the
So
conversation.
as part of the workshop, that Old Lancaster connection and into that, where the dance studio and there's
Yeah.
been discussion on. There should be some improvements there. We don't know what it is, but that would, I don't know if it's listed formally here, but I think that's like that could be an initiative.
Do we need to ask for money for that, or can we add it to that?
But maybe we could start if the bridge, and I understand what we're talking about on Old Lancaster, but if the bridge is the connector is the question. I think I remember down at Whole Foods, they have that teeny tiny bridge that has that, it's
Yeah.
rounded.
Yeah.
Isn't there a light now that like one side gets red, one side gets green?
Yeah.
And then they've made it so that it's become like a one-way bridge versus a two-way. Would that make sense to maybe have the police department, because they have the police, the traffic person, evaluate that, and maybe if that could be a one-way only with a green and a red, you could almost create a sidewalk that someone could walk on there
Down on,
and make that a little safer too.
yeah, Malvern, is it 352? there is a
Did they
pedestrian
have that too?
trigger. It's
Yes.
a similar
Yeah,
condition.
right above the hill,
It's a
right, as you're
narrow,
going up.
it's, I forget.
You go
yeah,
up
but
the
you
hill,
literally
it's
hit
under
the-
that.
It's like a crossing, but what it does is have traffic light on both sides of the tunnel and pedestrians can probably through the tunnel. So I think where we're landing on is it's separate from what.
It's separate from, because they're talking about throughway, but what Addie is talking about is a very real concern. And I think people have talked about it and they just have to do with it.
Are we talking about this area though, for that, the. Say,
Yeah.
when we're talking about extending the sidewalks and for this, what's this, Safer Schools grant or something like that?
Oh, along Conestoga.
On
Yeah.
Conestoga
We
side.
never got to this point.
Just kind of touched on it.
We did
Do you want
that
my
with,
Oh, yeah.
can't see it on here, but there's a sidewalk in front of the development that is all East Town. And we were connecting it to Conestoga,
Mhm.
but nothing came to the south end of that and this pinch point. where
It
this
was kind of discussed, like, if we're going that far, why not go down Francis? It is in the comp plan and also in the Rosa
Yeah.
plan. That we need to do a connection here.
Yeah.
I think the elephant in the room really is Amtrak owns that bridge, you know, so, you know, it's hard to widen it, but to your point, you know, I think, you know, if you do make it one way or something, if it can work, that would be an ideal solution.
Sure.
In the situation you mentioned in Malvern, it's a through road here, like you're turning right away, so it's a sight distance issue maybe, but I mean, I'm not gonna go in the engineer. Somebody should look at it, obviously, you know.
There is a way that it can be slowed and get more organized so that cars and people could get through there.
Yeah, Molly has something to.
Yep.
I was just, yeah, I was just gonna say, sorry, I don't know the names. The person on the left, the lady on the left, we had talked about, our neighborhood had talked about exactly what we're talking about at Whole Foods, like the take your turn system. It's not a light, it's just a stop sign, but it works. And then you could reclaim some of that 2-lane road and almost put like a sidewalk, maybe even like a guardrail, like for people, they might have to dismount their bike, but you could still walk safely. And then like the person on the far right in the Zoom meeting, we had also talked about you could do one way because you can within like a quarter of a mile be back to Waterloo and back the other way. If you went up like Francis or looped back around to those 5 points, you can come back through pretty quickly. Like if you go towards the middle school. So these are all ideas that we've all thought about. I'm sure they're better ones. You know, we're just the people that live in the neighborhood, but like you said, if they're engineers, but it's not a great deal of traffic through there. It's really just the speed at which people come through it and the visibility is just really challenging given how much living here, you really see how much pedestrian traffic it gets, particularly youthful people, which as parents makes us a little nervous in the neighborhood.
Okay.
What do we do with that?
So can we ask the police to evaluate that?
Fixing that.
Yeah,
Because you're right, even a stop sign, it just gets you to stop, like. People,
I can ask Officer Boyd, if he has evaluated, because I would find it hard to believe that all this time it hasn't already been evaluated, right? Because since I've been here, this is maybe the 500th time I've heard about
Right.
this.
no, right.
You know, and there has been lots of ideas of possibly making that area one way and whatnot. So maybe that is definitely something that goes on the 2026, you know, your list of projects that, you know, the planning commission wants evaluated. You know, you request funding, like we could do simple evaluations, you know, like asking Officer Boyd, because he would know right off the top of his head, like, yeah, I've evaluated and it doesn't trigger a stop sign or a one-way, you know, so that may already be done, but to maybe have an actual traffic engineer or a consultant evaluate it, you can request it in the 2026 budget. Okay. Right, so I know it sounds like it's a long time away, but the way government works, it goes
Slow.
Yeah, that's it, right? But sometimes it feels fast.
That is a local road, right, on the south side of the tunnel, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's all local. I'm pretty sure it's all township road, right? It's just that bridge that is not owned by the township, right?
Yeah. I mean,
But calming, the traffic calming or anything like that, we wouldn't need Amtrak for that.
no, not at all, yeah, I'm just wondering if you put a stop sign on the south side, on Lancaster side, I mean, there's already one on the other side coming from the Sunoco side, but,
Right, it's actually
Is
weird
that-
that two of
I
those
mean,
three don't have.
yeah, I mean, I live on Warren, so I definitely know when I go through that tunnel, especially when it's darker, I put my light on, but, sometimes people just take that curve and just fly through, I mean, I think, if they're stopped, they're gonna, they're not gonna have that acceleration, and then obviously there's a little battle when people are in the tunnel and people are taking that sharp turn, they're people honking on each other, so, a little bit of road rage going on there too.
Well, Bill, was your idea a light and then it makes it a one-way, right? So it's only green for one way?
It's the thing that came up to me is the only time I've ever seen it is this, I forget the road in Melbourne.
Yeah,
but
I know the one you're
It's
talking
still,
about, yeah.
it's still a regular 2-lane road. It's
Right.
just that there is a button a pedestrian can hit,
Pedestrian, but,
which
okay.
triggers red lights on both of the
Ah,
lanes
so they can
and a
cross.
walk sign for them to walk through the tunnel.
Okay.
I don't know, I've ever seen that set up anywhere else, and I wanna say it's 350.
It's 352.
52.
Yeah, it's a narrow bridge and
Yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
up the hill or coming from the.
It goes up to Immaculata,
Right.
Yes.
yes.
They have one at, the Whitford train station.
Okay, yeah, I'm
but-
sure there are.
And it does stop the traffic, so the pedestrian can't walk through, so.
Okay, that's
Yes, now you're
good
buying
idea.
traffic lights and stuff, but I mean, it just,
Yeah.
I think the real issue is.
But maybe when we talk to Officer
Pedestrian
Boyd, we
can't
need to
safely
tell him
walk
it's
through.
not because we're concerned about car vehicular problems, it's a pedestrian vehicular interaction it's our issue.
Yeah.
Isn't there a sidewalk under that bridge?
What's that?
There's not a sidewalk under that.
There's a
If,
little-
if there is, it's like a fat curb.
It's
I mean, if there
18 inch-
is.
It's an 18-inch, not enough for a true sidewalk, it's like 2 foot or something, you're kind of hugging it and,
Right.
That sounds dangerous.
So like the one there Dale's for or something.
definitely not compliant,
Dalesford's a lot better than this one.
Is it?
Yes.
And the little history, I think, when that Hamlet Circle subdivision was built, the developer was looking at putting a sidewalk from Francis from Hamlet all the way down. But I think they hit some right away snags for the, septic, like this, Amtrak owns that whole line.
I think they couldn't require, I think it was that they couldn't require him to give sidewalks on property he didn't own.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
so it just would have been more challenging.
Sure. But
But I
that would
agree
be a
with you.
great grant opportunity for a sidewalk to be a connector too.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's come up more than once. but it should-
Yeah, it's
it
come
should be
up,
an issue,
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
come up several times since I've been here.
Kind of like the light idea.
Yeah.
I would,
A light and a stop
I
sign.
know
would go a
there's
long way
less,
in both,
putting
It'll be done
attaching
quickly.
light to a rail bridge is kind of. I don't know how that works, it's a little touchy, but somebody should look into it,
I think you could do that if you had a sidewalk coming up to it. Like you would
Yeah.
need somewhere where someone could land themselves and then they push it and wait and then go.
It's a good point. Without a sidewalk, we'd be encouraging them to cross without. a
But
sidewalk.
if you only had if you
Seriously.
only had
In that case, it would be a little bit dangerous, yeah.
it one way, whether it was like your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, or it just was one way. It is wide enough for sure that two people can tightly go by each other, so you can get one lane in a sidewalk and be
Yeah.
okay.
If it was one way, it would be totally fine.
Correct. Alright. Come on, let's go.
Alright.
Call it.
Announcements, next meeting is Tuesday, June 3rd.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned.
Alright.
you, thanks.
A lot done today, that was good.
Yeah, I like the lights.
Oh, great Phillies, so
Okay.
on Sunday. Oh my
So
God.
here's.
This.
Yeah.
So.
What?
I don't know about it. Well, sorry, Brady. And
What?
it's
Right.
generally it's
The
two
last I saw
traffic,
was
but this
3-0, and then I just
both
looked a little
directions.
while ago, it was
Like,
3-2.
like 2 minutes.
Of course,
I mean,
they're
Plan.
Yeah, we got rained on.
So it's not traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
see
then I had to
before I've been
leave,
there,
I had
so
to
I
like
don't-
my parents.
Yeah.
It
So I'm
it was,
pretty-
we're
pretty
we're listening
pretty-
to 90